All right, let's take a trip back in time to ancient Greece for a really great fable. It's a story all about a young boy, his beat up old wagon, and a lesson he learns from a pretty unexpected character out on a long, bumpy road. Okay, so let's set the scene. We're in the massive countryside of ancient Greece. Now, back then, most people got around by sea. But, for those harder to reach places inland, you needed a wagoner. And that's exactly where our story gets going. So picture this rough, unpaved track, and on it, we meet our main character, a young guy named Cleon. This is actually his very first trip as a wagoner. He just inherited the whole operation from his uncle. Now, his whole setup is, well, it's not exactly top of the line. The wagon's a hand-me-down, the wheels are all squeaky, and the canopy has seen way too much dust. And his horse, let's just say he's also seen some better days. And the horse, funnily enough, is named Hercules. When Cleon was a kid who thought that was such a great, strong name. But now, with the horse being so old and slow, its black mane all dusted with gray, the name kind of feels like a joke. So there's Cleon, just lounging on his seat, flicking the reins, trying to get the horse to hurry up. He's got a deadline, you see. He has to get this entire wagon full of olives to Sparta before a big festival starts. Otherwise, he won't get paid nearly as much. The horse kind of glances over his shoulder, gives Cleon a look, but then, with a huff, he actually starts to move a little faster. And as they start making good time, Cleon starts to relax. His mind wanders, and his grip on the reins gets a little loose. And of course, that's when it happens. He really should have been watching the road. His attention drifted, so he was totally caught off guard when the wagon lurched forward and then just slammed to a stop. That sudden halt sends Cleon flying right off his seat, and he lands with a yelp smack in the middle of a huge, muddy puddle. So he wipes the mud out of his eyes and immediately sees the problem. There was a low spot in the road that had collected a ton of water, and the heavy back wheels of his wagon have sunk deep into that soft, marshy ground. They are completely stuck. Cleon climbs back onto the wagon and starts yelling at his horse to pull. The old horse strains. Its legs are literally shaking with the effort. The wagon rocks forward maybe an inch, then two, before sliding right back into that muddy rut with a huge splash. He's totally defeated. Cleon just buries his head in his hands. This trip is a disaster. And in this moment of just pure desperation, he cries out, "If only I had the real Hercules here," wishing for the actual legendary demigod to show up. And just like that, as if he was summoned, this powerful voice booms from right beside the wagon. It's so sudden, Cleon almost falls right back into the mud. Right before his eyes, a mountain of a man just appears out of nowhere. I mean, he's over 6 feet tall, with shoulders as wide as a barge and muscles so solid they look like they were carved from marble. Cleon knows immediately who this has to be. And what happens next is this really interesting, awkward moment. Cleon, rubbing the back of his neck, all embarrassed, has to explain that he was actually yelling at his horse, who also just so happens to be named Hercules. The real Hercules, though, he isn't offended. He just bends down to look at the stuck wheel and asks Cleon if he's even tried pushing yet. And Cleon has to admit that, no, the thought hadn't even crossed his mind. He just figured the horse would do it. And this is where the demigod kind of lays out the deal. He says, look, I could lift this thing with one hand, easy. But if you want my help, you're going to have to put in some of the work yourself. So as Cleon scrambles to the back of the wagon, Hercules starts sending out instructions, this booming voice urging the boy on, telling him to put his shoulder to the wheel and really put his back into it. Spurred on by this, Cleon plants his feet and pushes with every single ounce of strength he has. He heaves once, then again, and with one last massive push, the wheel pops free of the mud with this loud squelch, and the whole wagon rolls forward onto dry road. "We did it!" Cleon yells, totally out of breath, turning to thank his helper. But when he looks up, he sees the demigod just lounging in the driver's seat, casually eating a handful of his prize olives. Cleon's completely confused. He points out that Hercules didn't actually pull from the front like he said he would. He didn't physically help at all. The demigod just hops down from the wagon and smiles. He explains that, hey, help can come in a lot of different forms, and the help he gave was just a different kind.
Hercules' point was pretty simple, really. Cleon had the power to solve his own problem the whole time. All he had to do was get down from his seat and actually start pushing. Hercules gives the horse a friendly pat on the neck, tells him to take care of the kid, and then, with one last wink at Cleon, he vanishes just as suddenly as he appeared.
And Cleon just stands there for a second, blinking in the dust. He looks over at his horse, the other, Hercules, and he manages a small smile. With this new sense of resolve, he takes the reins and the wagon starts its journey again, just a little bit wiser on that long, bumpy road to Sparta.